Good morning, gorgeous. Yes, you. Welcome back to Rosie Rooted and Rising. Thanks for coming back and spending this time with me. And if this is your first time here, I want to welcome you. I don't take it lightly that you chose to press play today. I want you to settle in for a moment. However, you're coming into this space today, whether your mind is already moving ahead of you, you're thinking about something you need to handle, or everything you need to handle, or you're in the middle of something while listening. Hell, maybe you're even carrying something that's a little heavier than all of that. I want you to take a breath because what we're getting into today, this is real. Not something you read, not something you heard somewhere, something you lived or you're in right now. So let's get into it. Today's episode is titled When Boundaries Are Clear and Still Ignored. Let me share something with you. This is something I went through last year, and those of you who know me know what I'm talking about. I didn't fully understand what it was teaching me until I was out of it. There was someone in my life who did not respect my boundaries. I mean, like, at all. And I want to be very clear when I say that because sometimes we soften that statement and tell ourselves we could have explained it better or said it differently or maybe given it more time. That was not the situation here, okay? I was clear, very clear. I communicated exactly what my role was, what I was responsible for, and what I was not. There was no confusion in how I showed up, and there was no confusion in what I was willing to take on. But it didn't matter. Every time I reinforced those boundaries, they were ignored. Calls, emails, texts, constant. And when I didn't respond the way this person wanted me to, it escalated. It turned into criticism. You're incompetent. I can't count on you. Now, I want to slow this down because this is the moment where a lot of women get pulled back into something they've already outgrown. Because even when you know who you are, when someone questions your reliability, your consistency, your ability, it hits something. And even if you're grounded, you will start responding from a place of needing to defend yourself instead of standing in what you already know to be true. My instinct was to explain, to clarify, to make sure there was no misunderstanding. That's how I've always moved. That's how I've built my life. But this situation showed me something I had to accept. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a refusal. And those are not the same thing, ladies. A misunderstanding can be corrected. A refusal is a choice. And when someone is choosing not to respect what you've already made crystal clear, continuing to explain yourself does not solve the problem. It keeps you in it. That was the moment everything shifted for me. Because once I realized this wasn't about clarity, I had to stop doing what I had always done. I stopped explaining. I stopped defending. I stopped engaging at that same level. And that wasn't easy because when someone is coming at you, your natural reaction is to meet it, to correct it, and to shut it down. But I started to notice something. Every time I engaged, it continued. Every time I explained, it gave space for more. Every time I responded emotionally, it kept the cycle going. So I had to change my approach. Not in one conversation, but in how I chose to move. At that point, I stopped trying to prove who I was. I stopped trying to get this person to see me correctly. I stopped trying to make them understand. And I started asking a different question. Not, how do I respond to this? But, why am I still here? I'm just saying, why are you still there, Rosie? That question will shift everything because it takes you out of reaction and puts you back into ownership. I had to accept that no matter how clear I was, this person was not going to change how they showed up. And once you see that clearly, you are left with a decision, not about them, about you. Setting boundaries is one thing, enforcing them is something different. And enforcement doesn't always look like another conversation. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like disengagement. And sometimes it looks like leaving. I didn't leave emotionally. I didn't leave out of frustration. I left when I was clear. Clear that this was not going to change. Clear that staying meant continuing to tolerate something that no longer aligned with how I move. And once I made that decision, everything got quiet. Not easy, but clear. This is the part we don't talk about enough, ladies, because we focus so much on the decision, but not what comes after. After I left, there was a lot of space, and I'm not going to dress that up. It wasn't immediate relief. Well, maybe it was, but it was quiet. And when you've been in something that required constant response, constant awareness, constant adjustment, that kind of quiet feels unfamiliar, almost like something is missing. Not because you want to go back, but because your body got used to being engaged at that level. So now you're in your own space and you're not reacting, you're not managing, you're not bracing for the next interaction, but your system hasn't quite caught up yet. And if you don't understand that, you will start questioning your decision. You'll start thinking, maybe I could have handled it differently, or maybe it wasn't that bad. Not because it's true, but because you're adjusting to a different level of peace. This is where the deep work is, not in the leaving, but in the recalibration. You have to relearn what it feels like to not be constantly accessed, to not be pulled into unnecessary urgency, to not be responsible for someone else's behavior. And that takes time, because when you've been in a dynamic where your presence was constantly required, your absence will feel noticeable to you. So you have to sit in that. You have to allow your system to settle into a new normal. There was another layer to this that I didn't expect. I had to respect my own decision. We talk about other people respecting our boundaries, but we don't always talk about respecting ourselves after we made a decision. Not second guessing it, not reopening it, not negotiating with yourself after you've already been clear. Because every time you go back and question what you already decided, you weaken your own authority. So I had to draw a line internally. Once I was clear, I stayed clear. And let me say this because I know this is something a lot of women wait for. You don't always get closure, ladies. You don't. You don't always get acknowledgement. You don't always get an apology. You don't always get understanding. And if you wait for that, you will stay longer than you need to. Closure is not something they give you. It's something you decide. I had to accept that I was not going to get what I thought I needed from that situation. And once I accepted that, I stopped looking for it. And that freed me. Not everyone who hears your boundary will respect it. Not everyone who understands you will honor you. And your responsibility is not to convince them. Your responsibility is to decide what you do when they don't. That is where your power is. Matthew 10:14 reminds us, if someone will not receive you or listen to you, there comes a point where you leave, not forcing it, not explaining it again, not staying where you are not being received. Leaving. I want you to think about one place in your life where you've already been clear and it's still being ignored. And instead of explaining yourself again, ask yourself, what does enforcement look like here? That answer may not be easy, but it will be honest. You're not responsible for making everyone understand you. You are responsible for how you move when they don't. And that shift will change everything. If today's episode resonated with you, I would love for you to leave a review and share it with another woman who's rising or someone in your life who needs this conversation. Follow the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And if you're listening on YouTube, like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next on Rosie Rooted and Rising. Until next time, sis y hermana, stay rooted, stay blessed, and keep rising. New episodes every Monday morning.